We are absolutely swimming in sound. It's on our phones, in coffee shops, pretty much everywhere we go. But let's be honest, most of it is just background noise. So today, we're going to go on a little journey. We're going to find out what music is when it's not something you just stream, when it's not just for listening, but for doing something real.
So let's ask this question right up front. What if music was way more than entertainment? What if it was a tool, a technology, a secret language, or maybe even a weapon? We're going to peel back all the layers of the modern music industry and look at what sound truly does. And to really get a grip on these hidden functions, we can't start in the middle. We have to go to the fringes, to the absolute sonic extremes, where the whole purpose of sound gets pushed to its absolute limit. Okay, so on one end of the spectrum, you've got something called Zool. This stuff, created by the French band Magma, isn't just a collection of songs, it's a whole mythological universe with its own made-up language, Kobayan. And the goal isn't for you to just sit back and listen. No way. The heavy, driving rhythms are meant to be a vibratory force. It's an overwhelming experience you're supposed to feel, like deep in your bones. Now let's slingshot to the total opposite end, a genre called lowercase. This is music made from sounds we are literally trained to ignore. The hum of a fridge, the sound of paper rustling. The artist Steve Roden even made a whole album just from those sounds. With lowercase, the music doesn't come to you. You have to lean in, you have to listen really, really hard, and basically find it yourself inside the quiet. And that contrast right there, that's the whole point. You've got Zool, this overwhelming force designed to literally activate your body. And then you have lowercase, this amplified silence that demands you enter an almost meditative state just to hear it. This is the huge, unexplored sonic territory that lives completely outside the world of pop hits and streaming playlists.
Okay, so beyond just personal experience, sound has been one of our most basic technologies. And maybe its most important use? Well, it was solving that ancient problem of distance. How do you talk to someone who's miles away?
Well, imagine you need to get a really specific message to someone on the next mountain over, but you don't have a phone. On the island of La Gomera in the Canary Islands, they figured it out with Silbo Gomero. Now, this isn't just a couple of simple signals like a bird call. Oh no, it is a full-on transposition of the entire Spanish language into whistles. Different pitches, different lengths, they all represent vowels and consonants. And here's the part that'll blow your mind. When neuroscientists studied the brains of expert whistlers, they found that the sound wasn't being processed in the music centers of the brain, it was processed in the language centers, right next to spoken Spanish. To their brains, it's not music, it's speech. It's just delivered in a different way. An absolutely brilliant technology that sadly is now threatened by the very cell phone in your pocket. And this wasn't some one-off thing. In West Africa, so-called talking drums could actually replicate the tones and rhythms of local languages. They could send any message, from news about a new baby to a call to arms. In fact, their power was so well known that slave owners in the Americas banned them because they were absolutely terrified these rhythms were being used to plan rebellions. So music wasn't just about conquering distance. It was also an essential tool for synchronizing hard labor up close, providing the beat that could turn a bunch of individuals into one single, powerful, efficient machine. For a perfect example, let's look at the Woking songs from the Scottish Highlands. The job was to take newly woven tweed cloth and make it softer and denser. How? A group of women would sit around a big table and for hours beat this heavy, damp cloth in perfect rhythm. It was just brutal, back-breaking work. So how did they manage it? The music was the answer. It worked in a call-and-response style. One person, the soloist, would sing a line of a story. Then the whole group would answer back with this powerful rhythmic chorus. And on that beat, bam, they'd all slam the cloth down together. Not only did this keep the work perfectly in sync, but it also became this incredible social space where they could share gossip, complain, and just connect. So the music was doing two jobs at the same time, right? On one hand, it was a piece of textile engineering, making sure the cloth was finished just right. But on the other hand, it was a kind of group therapy session, turning this awful monotonous chore into a moment of shared community. All right, from building community to sparking conflict, when speaking out is illegal and taking action is impossible, sometimes music can become the perfect weapon, a coded signal to start a revolution. Let's travel to Portugal, 1974. The country had been crushed under a dictatorship for nearly 50 years. A secret group of soldiers was ready to overthrow it. But they had a huge problem. How do you tell hundreds of troops all across the country to go at the exact same moment without tipping off the secret police? They used the radio. The first signal, played late at night, was a popular, sappy love song. That was the secret message for rebel officers to get their troops in a position. Then, just after midnight, the radio played a banned folk song by a political activist. That was it. That was the final command. The moment that song hit the airwaves, troops moved in, they seized key locations, and boom, the dictatorship fell. All kicked off by two songs hiding in plain sight. And this idea of hiding rebellion in music was practically perfected in apartheid-era South Africa. Activists there use something they called sonic disguise. What they do is take these well-known, totally harmless-sounding tunes like church hymns, and they'd secretly replace the words with lyrics about resistance. It was an amazing way to spread messages and keep morale high right under the noses of the government. Okay, now we're going to pivot to what might be the most incredible function of all, music as actual medicine. This is where sound stops being just a social or political tool and becomes a biological one, something that can directly influence our brains and even our cells. Get this, recent research out of Stanford is looking into something called rhythmic entrainment. It turns out our brains have this natural tendency to sync up with a beat. So by timing therapeutic brain stimulation to hit right before the beat in a song, the exact moment the brain is most receptive, they found they can literally double how effective the treatment is. It's incredible. But it seems like the effects go even deeper than our brains. Scientists have been experimenting with very specific sound frequencies, and they found that something amazing happens to our cells in this super narrow range, 450 to 500 hertz. So what on earth is going on here? This sounds like something out of science fiction, but it's real. When they expose human embryonic stem cells to this specific sound vibration in a lab, the cells actually multiply more effectively, and they get better at maintaining their ability to become any type of cell in the body. Pure vibration is acting like a biological signal, pointing to a future where we could use specific frequencies in things like regenerative medicine. So where does all this leave us? I mean, we've gone from extreme minimalist art to whistled languages. From Scottish work songs to revolutionary signals, and all the way down to the cellular level. The big takeaway here is that music was never, ever just entertainment. It's one of our oldest, most powerful, and most flexible technologies. It's a tool we've used for communication, for coordination, for resistance, and now for healing. It's a fundamental part of how we've built our societies, and maybe even how we've built ourselves. And that brings me to one last question, really a question for you. In our world, where algorithms are constantly feeding us functional music, playlists to help us focus or fall asleep, what are we losing? As we turn sound into this passive background commodity, what powerful, active, world-changing sonic technologies are we in danger of forgetting how to use?